Hey, everybody, how's it going? It is the lemoncast, and I actually have a guest with me. He is DanQ8000. I
What's
guess introduce yourself.
what's going on? This is Dan here. Thanks for having me, man. I look forward
Uh,
to
uh, I'm,
chatting
I'm,
games with you.
I'm sorry, you just cutting out. Could you repeat what you said?
Oh, yeah. What's up, guys? It's Dan here. Glad to be a part of the podcast.
You you just cut out again.
It's cutting out. I don't know what's going on. Test, test. Can you hear me?
Hey, you back? Cause you just cut out a lot.
Okay, hold on.
It, it seems like your connection is a bit laggy. I can't really hear you.
Okay. I don't know. Let me try something. Hold on. No. Are you on like Wi-Fi?
Let me check. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you seem clear now.
Maybe just a little glitch. I didn't really do anything.
It's alright. I guess we could like restart or whatever. Um,
Okay.
hey, this is the lemoncast podcast. This is fuck. Hey, this is the lemoncast podcast. And I actually have a guest with me. He is DanQ8000. Is there anything you'd like to say?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Stan here. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said before, great to have you, man. Like, I'm a huge fan of your videos. I mean, used to watch them like all the time back in the day.
Oh, well, thanks,
Like,
man. I appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Like whenever I would pick up a new game, or I would always like watch your Let's Play first before I even really play it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was there for anyway. I definitely was. The mindset was I know not everyone is going to be able to, like what is the game worth it? That's a question people ask. I feel I can kind of relate to most people in that sense, and except I can, be the test dummy, I guess you could say. So that's definitely one of the main reasons I started doing what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. I guess this is like a gaming podcast. What games have you been playing recently? I guess outside of the
Uh,
channel.
As of late, well, I've been doing a lot of, multiplayer, playing Call of Duty and Gears of War 5, but just whatever's coming up. Like right now it's a bit of a slow time, so we're just filling it in with whatever we can find lately doing, Fallout New California, fan made mod there for Fallout New Vegas. I got a few ideas coming up in the next little while, so we'll see what else we got going on. But yeah, nothing really new until Doom Eternal, which I'm really looking forward to. So that should be a good one.
Yeah, yeah. Me and myself, I've just been playing the OG Xbox recently.
Oh yeah, what have you been playing?
The original Halo, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Yeah, I love these games growing up, so I figured, why not pick up the OG Xbox?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I loved Conkers. That was such a good game. I mean, I originally played it on the N64 back in the day, but you can actually get that one in what is it, the Rare Replay. That's Xbox One too. So got to
Yeah,
cop that version too.
yeah. I guess, I guess, kind of like explain how you like started your like YouTube channel, cause I guess like I don't mean to keep on being starstruck, but like I used to watch you like all the way back in the day, like in 2000, like in 2010, 2011. So like
Yeah.
how did you get this whole thing started? I guess.
Oh well, you're an OG fan. That's awesome. um, to be honest, like it was kind of like back then, around my channel. I made my channel in 2007, and the reason I made it was just simply to be able to comment on YouTube videos I was watching, and like they wouldn't let you interact at all unless you made one. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll make one. And my thought process at the time wasn't to, ever make videos. I never had that idea. So I just kind of thought of a name that was kind of, I guess, worked for anything in case I did decide to, you know, make videos in the future. But I obviously I've been a gamer basically my whole life. So um, what I wanted to eventually. I started watching people, and walkthroughs were still kind of an early thing, but I did enjoy seeing people, and how they would tackle some of my favorite games. And I'm like, oh, let's see how this person does it. And some would have commentary, some wouldn't. Most weren't, ironically, but there were a couple that I particularly liked. And I'm like, you know what? I could do that. I feel like I could, play my favorite games or games that I know really well, and offer my opinions on it or help people through them. So it kind of started off that way, just do my own walkthroughs and like get people to try and old games that were obviously around for a while, and ones that I knew very well. And it just kind of started from that. And eventually I just had, I was having so much fun doing it. I just decided to pick up new stuff and just branch out and do a whole bunch of different kind of games, as opposed to just, ones that I already had or I was really good at. And eventually it morphed into like the whole Let's Play style that we do now. So it was definitely just like a, fun spare time hobby that I eventually was able to turn into a full-time thing.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, one kind of like huge Let's Play I want to talk about is the GTA series. Like, I know you started that whole thing for the hype of GTA 5. Like, what was that like playing like old games, for the hype, for the hype of like something new, I guess.
It definitely, like, especially when you've been out of the, I guess, when you got a new game coming out and you want to hype yourself up for it, it's you kind of have to get into that feel, because sometimes you forget, and then when a new game comes out, you're not really into it as much. I mean, yeah, you'll get into it, but there's that excitement that you miss. That's why it's always good to go back and play either the predecessor or, in this case, all of the games that I hadn't really played for the channel at that point. And I just remember having such good memories with it. So I'm like, you know what? It's about to come out. Let's play some of the classics and, just kind of prepare myself for, the new game coming out, and, like, obviously, what was it? Vice City, San Andreas. Those were some of my most played games when they released back in the, what was it? Early, mid 2000s, roughly, early to mid 2000s. So I definitely wanted to, guess, refresh my memory a little bit and then prepare yourself for the new one as it came out later that year. So that was definitely one of the more fun Let's Plays for me back in that time frame, for sure. Just for that reason. It was very nostalgic, but it also prepared me for the new game as well.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. Like the hype for like GTA 5 back then was just like kind of massive though. Like everybody made channels about it. I mean, how just like the midnight release was fucking huge.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember that. Like, it's crazy that game came out going on 7 years ago. Like, it's hard to really think of that, and they're still releasing content for it, and everyone's just talking about how, oh, GTA 6 is coming out this year. GTA 6, no, it's not. It's not coming out. It will come out. Don't get me wrong. They'd be stupid not to release a Grand Theft Auto 6, but with how big GTA 5 was, I just remember that game, especially for the time frame. I feel like that game released at a bad time. It released on the verge of a console cycle. So you've got the end of the 7th gen and you're going on to 8th gen, and so they had to double dip, so to speak. They had to redevelop it or make it work for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and then 4K and all that. So I feel like we probably would have had GTA 6 by now if it released originally on the current gen consoles, but obviously you can't. And once again, we got the new consoles coming out this year. Are we going to have a GTA 6 developed for those new consoles, or are we going to be like, it's weird timing because these games take so long to make. Like, I think GTA 5, they were developing it for like 6-7 years or something before we even saw it. So it's crazy how long these things go. So obviously, if we're going to get a GTA 6, that's got to be bigger than that, bigger and better. And I just think it's insane because I love the Grand Theft Auto franchise, and I honestly think, even though I love the older ones and everything, GTA 5 is definitely one of my favorites just for the sheer size of it and all you can do in it. It's basically a life simulator, stuff that you might not be able to do in real life, you can do in this game. So it's definitely cool to play it, go back and check out that game once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. But speaking of like hype for games, do you remember when like Skate 4 was a big thing? Like, I know you made a video on why Skate 4 isn't coming out. Has your opinion basically changed on that? Because I keep on hearing, oh, Skate 4 is coming out this year. It's coming out this year, and it's never gonna come out. Like, I don't know why people just don't see it. Like,
Well, the problem is people really want to believe these rumors. There's always, yes, I remember the reason I was when I made that video, there was a recent like desire for people wanted to play Skate 3 again. And so they took that game and they weren't releasing it anymore. Obviously it wasn't being produced for a long time. So what they did was they got recent hype again. There were a few YouTubers that made it popular. I remember I was playing it around that time, and it just so happens that there was a demand for the game again. So they put it back on, and they started making copies again. But people mistook that as, oh, hey, okay, if they're doing that, they're probably going to be making Escape 4, because 9 times out of 10, when a company remasters an old game or does something of that nature, it shows that they want to keep that alive. Most times, but unfortunately, when you have a company like EA who shut down that entire studio, they're not going to focus any money or any time on this franchise, even though people would pay for it, and like definitely it would do well. I just think that they're too God, they're just so obsessed with making like their quotas, and they
yeah,
do what works, and they make the multiplayer games, and they just keep throwing out digital items for you to buy. So a company like EA just would not make a game like Skate 4 anymore, because that era is basically done. Gaming is kind of in a it's going a lot of places, but I feel at the same time it's kind of in a dark pit. It's in a bad state too, where everyone's trying to do what the other guy's doing because it's successful. So there's no variety anymore. We're getting a lot of the same stuff every single year. So Skate 4, I would definitely love to see it. I'd be the first one to play it, but yeah, I just don't think we'll ever see that game anymore, unfortunately.
yeah, that I could agree with that. It honestly really does suck. I mean, at least so we kind of got replacements with Session and Skater XL, but I don't think that. Well, like when it comes to skateboarding games, I kind of wanted to have a story though. Like, wouldn't you agree or no?
I mean, it depends on the story. I mean, you don't really need. I mean, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise. That one always had a story of some sort. I remember when they were more simpler, and it was just like, here's this new location, here's all these challenges that you can do, and those were like much simpler times. But then eventually, as we went into like Underground and American Wasteland and all those types of games, there was a story with it. But I feel like as it went on, it got way more carried away. So I'm down
Exactly.
for a story, but something that's not stupid, like something kind of realistic. Like I've liked the Skate franchise as it went, because it was subtle. There were stories, but it wasn't like blatant like silliness. It was like,
Right.
hey, you're working your way up, you want to get sponsored, and you want to make it big in the skateboarding world, and you do that, right? It makes sense, right? You have characters that you like and who work with you, and you have the pros as well that are actually in game. So little things like that, I think, are good to have. Obviously, the old Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, not having that story, kind of like, you don't care. It's arcade, right? It's an arcade style game.
Yeah.
You just go and you make these massive combos, and you get the biggest score you can. Try and finish everything. It's just a completionist game. But definitely prefer the skate style. I mean, especially with the latest Tony Hawk game, that game was not good whatsoever. So, I
Uh,
mean, we need
yeah.
a proper skateboarding game that is like Skate. I mean, we had Session. Session was too complicated. I mean, your brain, that's like telling
I
telling two
actually
limbs to do different things, like, pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. It's exactly the same thing with those controls. It's too
Actually, though,
complex.
they recently made an update where they sort of have skate controls.
Oh,
It's
really?
basically, yeah, they made a new update with a new skate park or whatever, and they actually fixed the controls.
Oh, well, I'll have to check into that then. So I mean, as soon as I played it, I'm like, well, this shit I'm done with it. I mean, it was way too complex for me. It just didn't, like, I was so used to playing Skate. Like, I mean, your brain is trained that, and I just could not, teach myself otherwise. It was just I mean, eventually, I'm sure anybody could get good at it again, but that one was just, you had to unlearn everything you learned from Skate. So it was a tough one for me. But yeah, if it's
Yeah,
different, I'll have to take a look into it then.
yeah. I mean, they had like a real version of the Brooklyn Banks. They had kind of added like a whole new city. It's kind of like Manhattan, New York, where you just skate around, skate different spots. It's pretty good.
Awesome.
But
Well, I'll have to check it up, boot it up one more time, and try it again.
Yeah. But I guess another thing I want to talk about, like you mentioned EA. Like I heard Need for Speed 2015 was bad, but honestly, you made it kind of look fun, really. Like like I know in that game it was horrible, and for me it was horrible. But like when I saw you play, it looked kind of fun. You could customize cars and all that shit.
For sure, for sure. I mean, that was sorry. This is Skate, right?
No, no, no. We're talking about Need for Speed Heat.
Oh, Need for Speed.
I
Sorry,
mean,
I didn't hear you there.
sorry,
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 my
sorry.
bad.
No,
Need
no,
for
no.
Speed.
We're talking about Need for Speed
Gotcha.
2015.
Okay,
I'm
my
talking
bad.
about.
All right.
It's alright.
Yeah, no, I mean that game. I've always been a fan of the Need for Speed franchise, um, and it's gotten, I'd say, a little. I don't know. Obviously, when you had when Payback came out, that was like honestly one of the worst Need for Speed games ever made. That was when EA was at their greediest. You know, there was just the where we came from was completely forgotten, and there was no customization, absolutely nothing. The one from 2015, I actually liked it. Mind you, Need for Speed has always had some sort of story to it, and even people like don't want to admit it. Like they've always like Need for Speed is cringy, right? Like, all the stories are super cringe, or it's like the worst acting or whatever. It's kind of always been that way. You know what I mean? Like even when you go back to some of the best games, like Most Wanted, it's still kind of cringe to a degree, but I still love it. Like you gotta have some over excessiveness to kind of make because it's not reality, right? It's not reality. So I totally get it, and I like that they've changed it now. With Heat, I think they're going in the right direction. They're not there yet, but I feel like 2015 was one of those ones that I guess kind of got a bad rap. I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was like I had more purpose to play it. I wish there was more customization in it, but for all intents and purposes, it was a solid Need for Speed game, and I did enjoy that one.
Right. And I know you mentioned story, but like I feel like Need for Speed 2015 did it way too much. Like with that cringy acting, like
Yeah,
I like the stories, I like that it's corny, but 2015 did way too much with it.
it's true. I mean, it's not as bad as Payback, but no, you're right. There was a lot of over the top acting, and it's just like it's making like again, they're trying to make the situation way more interesting than it is. You know what I mean? Like it's always super random why this random dude is all of a sudden just thrown into these group of guys, because you did decent on this race that we didn't even take part in. You know what I mean? Like it's funny. That's always how it works, but they try to give you characters that you can enjoy or sometimes relate to, but you can't really relate to any of those characters, can you? I mean, no one's Ken Block, so except Ken Block. But it was cool they brought the cameos in, but at the same time, I do agree with that.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess another Let's Play I really want to talk about is shit. What was it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about a new game, Half-Life Alyx. Are you planning on like doing a Let's Play on that when it comes out?
Yes, definitely. I was never really into VR that much, not because it wasn't, interesting or it wasn't like, something I was wanting to do. I've always found that VR is kind of awkward. It's especially awkward because not everyone has the space for it. Even when like the space they want you to have is like a large amount. No one really has that realistically without moving a bunch of furniture. So, but Half-Life is such like, like it was such an amazing franchise to me. Like I played it way back in the day. I played Half-Life 2 like over and over with, episode 1 and 2. And just to be left hanging on that episode 3, and never getting it was like the worst thing I think a studio could have ever done. And I know this isn't exactly the same thing. It's obviously a prequel. I mean, it's going to give everybody hope that there is a Half-Life 3 in the works. So I doubt it. I will always be very skeptical about that. But it allows us to go back to the Half-Life universe that we love and, experience it from a different perspective. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out. That's why I officially like set up my VR this year and wanted to do, because there's been a few VR titles that I'm like, Oh, that looks pretty good. Oh, but it's VR. It's just there's so much more to it. You know, VR is not a comfortable thing. You can't sit there for hours and hours and hours and play VR. So it's one of those things that's, you know, well, this game was responsible though for making me set this up and get it going because I definitely want to check it out because it'll be nice to go back to that universe.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Valve, all I'm really asking for is Portal 3 or Portal Episode 1 or Episode 2. Like that's really all I'm looking for besides Left 4 Dead 3, which I don't think is ever gonna come out.
Probably not. Not at this stage. Valve is strayed away from developing games, but at the same time, Half-Life Alyx is like their first game since, geez, I don't even know what was the last game to come out, but um, they shut down and we were just strictly, you know, running Steam. So now they're like they have the studio that could potentially make some more sequels or brand new titles that we know they can make, like really solid titles because Valve has always made some great games. So I'm really excited for it. I hope that this VR game is going to do well. And the reason I say that is because if it does well, they realize that there's either I mean, one of two things could happen. A, VR is where it's at, and they're going to just keep making VR games. Or B, they're going to be like, okay, people like this, let's make more games for them. I mean, I feel like they've already had that and they never lost it. So I don't know. I wish they still they have the money, they have the means to do so. I don't know why they didn't just create the studio a while ago and just, you know, start making games alongside Steam. You can do that. Like, you know, it's gonna be good though. I am excited.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess we gotta wrap it up because I actually gotta go. But thank you for doing this podcast. I seriously greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm a huge fan of your videos. You know, can't wait for you to like play some 1077 when it comes out this September.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to that one as well. But yeah, man, it's been fun. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, no problem, man. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'm good. Just keep gaming up there.
All right. I guess follow me on Twitter and follow me on Discord. See you guys later.
Peace.